Are you going to ask me questions?
No. No, we're gonna have. Okay, naturally, I have to give you some questions. But anyway, I think your presentation was brilliant yesterday.
Thank you.
And then on the other side, it really puzzled me. And first of all, because of that concept of minunat, mersi. Foarte bine. Acum avem un interviu. Vorbim. Toate bune. Okay, you came forth with that concept that a protected area includes human habitats, and human intervention is maybe in hundreds and centuries of history is actually positive. It's not like this, let's say, Danube Delta protection scheme, and it's not a protection scheme basically. It's as far as I realize, it's just a publicity campaign basically. So please feel free to talk to us about this.
Yes. Well, it's conservationists often talk about societies in Africa and Asia, tribal people who are at one with their environment. And I think it's true that farmers in Europe for centuries were also in harmony with their environment. They were able to produce food, but at the same time they didn't try to look after nature, but they did. And by doing so, they helped themselves and their product. Because if you take away all the wildlife from a farm, you no longer have, for example, birds that will eat harmful insects. And many of the plants that occur, for example, in grasslands are beneficial to animals because they add to the feed value of the hay and the grazing. And Romania has a remarkable countryside, which is large areas are unspoilt. And these could be a future blueprint for the rest of Europe, showing how you can have traditional agriculture, still make a living and produce very good quality food. In Britain, for example, we have very intensive agriculture and we have lost most of our wildlife. And I'm not so sure the food we produce is very good either, with the use of too many chemicals. Here you have a more balanced ecosystem.
Yeah.
And you're not damaging the environment and the environment isn't damaging you.
True, I agree with that. So is there also a sociological, political aspect of this?
Well, very much, because now that Romania has joined the European Union, there are pressures to get rid of small farms. And we're arguing that, perhaps not everywhere, but in certain districts, small farms are important. They're producing good food, and they are looking after the environment, and they're giving a living the farmers to themselves, their families and their children. And this is very important that we keep this going. Otherwise we will just end up living in a kind of factory. And there will be no wildlife. And there will be few people living in the countryside as well. They all have to live in flats and towns, being fed by factories.
They're already doing that.
Oh, well,
they're fleeing from the countryside to Bucharest and big towns in Romania.
But at least in Romania, many people still have a foot in the countryside. Most people have an uncle, a mother, a grandfather who has a farm.
That's also true. Yeah.
And it would be nice to keep that link and to make something of it in the modern world.
So you say the way people are feeding, I mean, there's a strong link between food, I mean natural food that Adept and Slow Food is promoting, and this biodiversity.
Yes. Sort of diversity of food, diversity of culture, diversity of plants and animals. And
what would be the link between food and food producing and what you are doing?
It's all to do with scale, small scale. A small scale farmer can produce good food and not affect the wildlife, especially the plants. And much of Romania is still grassland, and excuse me, I've been particularly interested in your wonderful farm grassland, which is a habitat that some of your top biologists have sometimes ignored because they have wonderful wilderness to look at.
Yeah, true.
We in England have very little left, but we're realising that a lot of our best biodiversity is on good quality farmland, what they call high nature value grassland, for example. in the end, you can save a lot of plants and animals in nature reserves, but you can't put everything into nature reserves. So really, most of the countryside needs to protect most of the wildlife because that won't be in nature reserves. But if it's on farms, you can protect it, and you can also create a good living, and you can produce products that people want to eat.
Good.
And the Saxon villages is a very good example of this. It's a remarkable survival. It's a sort of ecosystem all of its own. Bits of it are damaged, but not too badly. And it can, at the moment, it can repair itself. There are enough seeds, there are enough birds and insects coming in. If a bit gets damaged or devastated, it will repair itself. But say in England, if you have a little nature reserve and you damage it, it won't repair because there is no, it's surrounded by farmland. People in Romania think, oh, England's wonderful, it's green and perfect. It's not, it's green and perfect because it's a green desert.
Wow.
Sometimes you hear no bird song. For example, the little insects, the crickets, like grasshoppers that live in the grass, we've lost most of them in Britain. Here you hear them singing. The field cricket would have been an important part of farmland in England once, helping to drain the soil. All sorts of things with its little burrows. A major part of the landscape. Now we've lost it. Here you still have it. Everything here is intact.
So you think projects as Slow Food and stuff like that, like Addict, can make a difference here?
Well, we try. It has to be small scale at the moment, and we have a pilot area of about 10,000 hectares in 3 communes. And we have a larger project area which will be included in the EU's Natura 2000 project. That is 85,000 hectares. But in our project area, our pilot area, we're beginning to make a small impact by helping a few farmers who are willing to join in. And gradually their neighbours will see that they're getting a benefit and will start to join the project, we hope. And you've got to start small. It's like a business. You start small and work up.
But that's basically the hook. I mean, there is